with cold seltzers, ciders, canned cocktails, and more. Details at specs.com. Cheers to savings.
Wreck out east 10, headed east at Market Street. May block some lanes to get that out of the way. 93 for the high. Sunshine's going to feel like 105. Maybe seeing some winds, 20-mile-an-hour gusts later on. Upper 70s for the low this evening. Mid-90s for the weekend going into next week as well as the dryness continues. Right now 85 LaPorte, 82 here at the University of Houston. Listen anywhere we're streaming live online. It's KUHF Houston News 88.7. The service of the University of Houston. Houston Matters starts right now. Stick around. 9 o'clock.
HISD's state-appointed board has approved controversial Bible-infused curriculum. I'm Craig Cohen. Today on Houston Matters, Houston Public Media's Bianca Seward fills us in.
Houston Matters with Craig Cohen is a production of Houston Public Media with support from Baylor College of Medicine.
Also this hour, a walkout and quorum break at Fort Bend County Commissioner's Court. We mark the anniversary of 3 landmark Supreme Court decisions involving gay rights, plus intrigues in the news this week about expansion by the rodeo and maybe the National Hockey League here or in Austin. Our non-expert panel weighs in on the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we preview the Ensemble Theatre's production of Get Ready, which explores the impact shifts in popular music had on black musicians in the 1950s. We'll start with a news update from NPR and News 88.7. Stay with us.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The acting president of Venezuela says the death toll after 2 powerful earthquakes this week has risen to at least 589. Nearly 3,000 others were injured. 2 days after the quakes, emergency crews continued to dig through the rubble and debris of collapsed buildings in the capital. Cesar Jimenez is with Project Hope. He's in Caracas, where rescue teams are racing to find survivors.
Maybe more than 40 or 50 buildings, partially or totally collapsed. I'm talking about businesses, households, hotels, maybe 15 or to 20 stories building totally collapsed with a lot of people inside, a lot of pets, kids. It's really heartbreaking, and there are still hundreds of people trapped under the buildings.
The Trump administration has pledged $150 million in humanitarian aid. Stocks on Wall Street opened lower this morning as oil prices fell. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped about 108 points in early trading.
As oil tanker traffic in the Strait of Hormuz begins to come untangled, Saudi Arabia is preparing to start shipping oil once again. Saudi Aramco began loading tankers at its Ras Tanura terminal for the first time in almost 4 months. Crude oil prices have fallen nearly 10% in the last week, with the U.S. benchmark dropping below $70 a barrel. Retail gas and diesel prices have also been inching lower, although AAA says the average price of regular gas is still about 92 cents a gallon higher than when the war with Iran began. Apple is raising prices for MacBooks and iPads, and the price of iPhones is expected to jump as well. The company blames the rising cost of memory chips, sparked by the artificial intelligence boom. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The Trump administration says it's teaming up with a Texas-based private company to preserve the DNA of endangered species. NPR's Nate Rott reports.
The company, Colossal Biosciences, is best known for its efforts to bring back extinct species like the woolly mammoth and the direwolf, efforts that have raised a lot of concerns in the broader wildlife conservation community. Under the new partnership, the company says it will aim to store DNA, tissue, or cell samples of the more than 2,300 plants and animals protected under the Endangered Species Act, and that it will use them for research. Zoos, academic institutions, and federal agencies already biobank samples of imperiled species, which can be used to help their recovery. Some scientists are critical, though, of the government partnering with a for-profit company to help those efforts. Nate Rott, NPR News.
Stocks on Wall Street are trading lower at this hour. The Dow was down 75 points, the Nasdaq down 124. This is NPR News in Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the George Lucas Educational Foundation, creator of Edutopia. For 35 years, sharing what works in schools today and working to inspire new ways to learn tomorrow. More at edutopia.org.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. Houston ISD's state-appointed Board of Managers approved the $2 billion budget last night. The vote comes just 5 days before the deadline to approve that budget. There was little discussion, though, about the budget, and instead the meeting focused on the proposal to adopt the controversial Bluebonnet curriculum. Bluebonnet has been heavily criticized for its inclusion of biblical teachings. The curriculum was unanimously approved, though. Stay here. Our education reporter Bianca Seward is standing by with more on what happened at the meeting last night. That's just ahead here on Houston Matters. Brazil and Japan will face off in Houston on Monday for their first knockout rounds of the FIFA World Cup. The two teams, each with devoted fan bases, secured their spots this week. Houston's World Cup host committee is preparing for any celebrations on Monday, but with a much shorter time frame. Here's host committee President Chris Canetti.
We've been working with the Dutch since December, for example, when they were assigned to Houston, all these different federations for months on things. And now all of a sudden we've got days just to react and respond. So it is a new element.
Now, before Monday's match, Houston is hosting one final group stage match tonight at 7 between Cape Verde and Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, federal authorities in Houston say they've seized 27 drones so far during the FIFA World Cup. Each World Cup stadium is a no-fly zone for drones. Here's the FBI's Aaron Hope speaking at the Bureau's Atlanta field office prior to the tournament.
We do have technology that we can use to identify drones and then locate operators. And so that's something that we will be doing if we need to.
FIFA's Houston office did not state whether any of those drone operators were federally charged or fined. And the Astrodome has been named one of the country's most influential buildings. The dome tops the list of Time magazine's 25 buildings and monuments that best tell the story of the nation. For 4 decades, the Astrodome held various sporting, political, and entertainment events. It also transformed into a place of refuge for thousands of people who were displaced as a result of Hurricane Katrina. I'm Matt Harrop, News 88.7.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Good morning. Thanks for joining us here on News 88.7 and Houston Public Media's YouTube channel. Coming up this hour, drama at Fort Bend County Commissioner's Court. We mark the anniversary of 3 landmark Supreme Court gay rights cases. This week's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And Houston's Ensemble Theatre presents Get Ready, which examines the changing sounds of black popular music starting in the 1950s. But first, last night, Houston ISD's state-appointed Board of Managers approved Bible-infused curriculum for elementary school students and also voted to adopt a $2 billion operating budget for the next school year. Here with the details is Houston Public Media's Bianca Seward. Bianca, good morning.
Good morning, Craig.
All right, the board approved this controversial state-developed Bluebonnet learning curriculum for K-5 students. First, why is it controversial?
Yeah, it's been heavily criticized for what people are calling a Bible-infused curriculum. It uses Christian texts to help explain different stories. And so it's only been in development for a couple of years and used for a couple of years. And so there's been a lot of concern about how it will be implemented, what its effectiveness is. It's still very new.
And we should point out that districts have the discretion whether to use it or not. But there's money attached if they do.
Yeah, it's a state-developed program, and so districts can decide whether they want to adopt the program and implement it into their schools. But there is a heavy financial incentive, and so HISD estimates that they'll earn another $3.3 million in state funding if they adopt the program, which is money they're in need of.
Can you give some examples of how this curriculum uses Bible stories?
Yeah, it teaches elementary school students about the Golden Rule using text from the Bible. It also introduces fifth graders to Leonardo da Vinci's painting The Last Supper, which is based on the Christian story of Jesus' last meal. So it kind of pairs these traditional stories or ideas that we teach elementary school students with a Christian text that might help further explain it. That's how they were talking about it last night at the school board meeting.
Have other school districts adopted this?
Yeah, a few in the Houston area. Conroe and Splendora ISD have. Outside of the greater Houston area, we're looking at Fort Worth ISD using it as part of their language arts section. South San Antonio ISD approved it last year. Deputy Superintendent Kristen Hull said that up to 30% of districts had adopted the curriculum and 12% of K through 5th graders were actively using it.
There have been past famous court cases testing how far religion can be injected into public education before students and families' First Amendment rights to a free exercise of religion are crossed. Could this curriculum be challenged at some point?
It's absolutely possible. Last year, the ACLU and the Americans United for Separation of Church and State, they all sent superintendents and school boards a letter warning that this curriculum would, quote, unlawfully impose a set of religious beliefs on students. This is part of their larger fight to what they say take Christian nationalism outside of the school. We saw them make legal battles against the 10 Commandments that are in schools, and they're hitting a bit of a challenge as the issues rise through the courts.
Well, that's a substantial challenge. Is it the only issue with the curriculum?
It's not the only issue with the Bluebonnet curriculum. Earlier this year, the State Board of Education, Texas Education Agency, issued more than 4,000 corrections to the education materials, and that was a wide variety of different things that were concerning typos, formatting issues, just a number of different issues. And because the curriculum is taxpayer funded, it's the taxpayers who will bear the brunt of the cost to reprint those materials.
While the Bluebonnet curriculum is up to individual districts to decide whether or not to teach it, the Texas Board of Education is poised today for a final vote on K through 12 social studies standards, which critics say also push a certain version of Christianity, while supporters say the standards place Texas and America's founding principles in their proper context. What exactly would change? Yeah,
there's a couple of things here. They're adding a number of different Christian Bible stories to the official reading list materials from the New Testament and the Old Testament, but all of that Christian-focused storytelling. And then also they're looking to make a major change in social studies for K through 8th graders that really de-emphasizes world history, eliminating it at the 6th grade level and refocusing those lessons to be Texas and U.S. history based, to kind of focus students on that history and omit the other world history.
Assuming the state board approves it today, when would that take effect?
It would take effect for the 2030-2031 school year, so in about 5 years. And the preliminary votes we've seen this week indicate that it will be approved today.
All right, so let's set aside curriculum for a moment and get back to HISD. The state-appointed Board of Managers also approved a budget last night for the coming school year. What should we know about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a $2 billion budget that will be approved for this upcoming school year, and they've held 3 different workshops to kind of go over the numbers. Mike Miles had hoped to balance the budget this year, but it looks like with the most recent plans that he'll be in about a $25 million deficit. It's largely battling declining enrollment. The HISD is expecting to lose about $50 million in state funding due to declining enrollment, which we've seen steadily decline over the years. But they're also moving money towards the new AI focused pilot program that Miles is launching. It was at first expected into 2 schools, but now we're seeing as many as 9. Those schools are going to get about $500,000 each to implement the program.
And remind us what that program is exactly?
Yeah, that program is, as Mike Miles explains, preparing students for an AI-driven world. So in the morning, they'll focus on the core curriculum that we traditionally understand elementary school students would learn: math, science, reading, language arts, that kind of stuff. And then the afternoon is dedicated to experiences. And when Mike Miles was here on the program, he indicated it might be for camping trips or physical activities or chess playing or grocery shopping, a number of different things to kind of teach students those physical and active skills.
And again, it calls it the Future 2 schools.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll keep track of that. Did the board say anything about that or anything else as they passed the budget?
There have been minimal details about what the Future 2 program was going to look like in practice. We have requested lesson plans. We've requested more research about where they have found this to be successful. We are entering a new world. So when I talk to people who are critical of the district, they understand that there's need for innovation and to kind of adapt to the evolving world that we're in. But without any kind of transparency or details about what they're planning for these schools, many parents that I speak to are mostly nervous.
Meantime, the budget that was passed seems to include some real disparities in per-student spending, depending on which schools you're talking about. The ones that are under Miles' New Education or NES system, those campuses are receiving about $8,400 per student. Non-NES schools, $6,200. That's a pretty big gap.
It is a pretty big gap. They're shifting some of the funding to those NES programs. They really didn't speak too much to it in the budget workshops that we'd had. Last night, when we were expecting to hear a little bit more about the budget, since they had delayed the vote, we figured there might be more questions. They spent maybe a couple of minutes discussing it and then moved directly on to the proposals for the Blue Bonnet curriculum. So really, we got minimal discussion last night. I mean, the whole school board meeting took just a little bit over an hour, which is unusual.
What did you hear over that time from parents, from other members of the community about all of this?
A lot of Bluebonnet talk yesterday. There were a number of parents that were upset about what they felt the lack of ability to come out and speak out against the curriculum. This kind of topic usually appears at a couple of board meetings before it's voted on. The problem with last night's board meeting is that it's happening during summer vacation. It's after the school year ends. The agendas are not listed and more than 3 days prior to the meeting. So it gives parents really a short window to decide that they want to come and show up. Most board meetings have more than 100 parents and community members that show up. Last night's had less than 30. So it was a marked change. There were a number of faith leaders from the Jewish faith, from Lutheran faith, from Episcopal faiths that had come to, they weren't able to speak because they didn't sign up in time, but they stood in silent protest. And when I spoke to Rabbi Joshua Fixler, he called the vote to implement the curriculum a betrayal.
Bianca Seward covers education for Houston Public Media. Bianca, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Fort Bend County government ground to a halt Thursday after 2 Democratic commissioners walked out of a meeting, breaking quorum and leaving county business in limbo. The standoff is the latest escalation in a dispute over who legally leads the county. The suspended elected Judge K.P. George, who was convicted of money laundering and sentenced last week, or interim Judge Daniel Wong, whose own legal authority to hold the position is now being challenged. Melissa Enaje covers Fort Bend County for Houston Public Media. Melissa, good morning.
Good morning, Craig.
All right, first of all, quickly remind us how Fort Bend County got here.
Yeah, the story here again has a spider web of many different factors here, as well as, the domino effect. But KP George essentially switched parties from a Democrat to a Republican amid his legal troubles. His legal troubles here beyond the criminal conviction, a misdemeanor trial, which was scheduled for July for misrepresentation of identity, a September suit, that's the civil suit that was filed by the Fort Bend County citizen, set for the fall. Now, when he was sued in the civil court, pay attention to this one. He was suspended, and the Republican candidate for county judge to replace him in the November election, Daniel Wong, was installed and appointed as the interim county judge by a visiting district judge, Galveston County Judge Jones.
Yeah, and again, we should point out when George made that switch of parties, that shifted the balance of Fort Bend County Commissioners Court to the Republicans, which is why the Republican candidate was then installed, right?
3-2, correct.
Wong was appointed, though, temporarily in connection with this civil suit, which was then dropped earlier this month after George was sentenced following his criminal trial. What does the Fort Bend County attorney, the chief legal officer for the county, say about what that means for Wong's authority now?
Yeah, this order of non-suit with prejudice, she said this many times before as well, leading into yesterday's commissioner court, that the underlying case that gives rise to Wong's appointment and terminates the interim judge authority to serve, that easily is the legal argument saying here in the context with the Texas laws that his appointment is no longer valid, there's no trial, and that it should be dismissed. And Wong's legal counsel that he's hired in the 2 months in his tenure now, they're arguing against the county attorney with this.
Yeah, they're saying his authority is based on a holdover provision in the Texas Constitution. What does that say?
Yeah, the holdover provision of the Texas Constitution here, it requires a Wong, it's saying, his legal counsel is saying that it requires Wong to continue to perform, the duties of his office. And Lawson is saying, the county attorney is saying that this holdover position in the Texas Constitution is applicable to elected and appointed officials to a legally defined vacancy in the state. She's saying that there's no vacancy in the state. This is an appointment that was all based upon the suspension of KP George, who still is the titular county judge. He is just right now, while he's been sentenced, he is on appeal. Therefore, everything is in a hold. And that appeal case, I'm being told by the district attorney's office, is going to last way beyond his term that ends at the end of this year.
One of the 2 Democratic commissioners who walked out over all of this is the other candidate for Fort Bend County judge, right?
Yes, that's correct. Commissioner Dexter McCoy, he did walk out. He is the Democratic candidate for county judge. And I will say, after the primary runoff election, and he was, voted to be the candidate there, I thought Commissioner's Court would, start to intensify, but I didn't know how fast and how quick.
Yeah, would any of this be going on if it was not Wong versus McCoy in November?
I mean, the tit for tat here that's going on between the legal counsel, between both parties, really here, it's unfortunate, but they want to go back to just taking care of county business here. But essentially, it's been a lack of decorum. Residents have come up to me saying, oh, is this going to continue until November? This is 4 months leading into the election, and we have at the dais, the Democratic candidate and the Republican candidate who are, battling it out essentially. So
again, no business probably going to take place for the moment anyway.
Not what I saw yesterday, Craig. The Democratic commissioners, they walked out and they said there is no quorum going on upstairs. That was different. What was happening? Court continued. They said there is a quorum with Wong and the two Republican commissioners, and they held court past things on the agenda, and including, some of the judges' agenda items, including an item for $2,600 of a laptop, which a resident spoke out on behalf of. How is a non-elected official passing items on the agenda here? So this is leading into a very legal battle. Dexter and Commissioner McCoy and Commissioner Prestige did say that they're going to pursue legal matters in this case. That's one thing they said when they walked out.
All of which means whatever business does take place only among the Republicans, maybe over the next 4 months, anything that gets done could get undone down the road.
That's what I'm hearing on behalf of not only the county attorney, public officials as well, and that just leads us into more legal spider webs of what can happen in between the election.
Well, we look forward to hearing your reporting on whatever happens next. Melissa Enaje covers Fort Bend County for Houston Public Media. Melissa, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Up next, today's the anniversary of 3 landmark Supreme Court cases involving gay rights. We discuss them as Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and YouTube.
On the podcast After the Flood.
You count on Houston Public Media. That's why you're here right now. Take the next step and become a new member today. Every gift makes a difference. And with a gift of $5 a month or more, you'll receive PBS Passport, a member benefit that lets you stream more of the shows you love anytime. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. Join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Listeners like you, and from Baylor College of Medicine. Baylor's work centers on advancing health and medicine through research, education, and patient care.
Support comes from Pearland, Texas, a community supporting innovation in business, science, healthcare, energy, and inspiring their citizens. More on innovation happening in Pearland at pearlandedc.com. Pearland, innovation lives here.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Today, June 26th, is the anniversary of not one but 3 landmark U.S. Supreme Court rulings affecting gay rights. To look back on those cases, let's talk now with an attorney who worked on the first one, Mitchell Katine from Katine, Netchman, McLaurin, LLP. He's also an adjunct professor at the UH Law Center. Mitchell, welcome back to Houston Matters. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
We have spoken before about Lawrence v. Texas, for which you were legal counsel. Can you remind us what that case was about and the role you played in it?
Sure. So in 1986, the Supreme Court had issued a pretty bad decision known as Bowers v. Hardwick that said that gay and lesbian people were not protected by the United States Constitution. In 1998, John Lawrence and Tyrone Gardner were arrested for having sex in John's apartment. That was a crime under Penal Code 2106. We lost. They hired me. I was their local counsel. I worked with Lambda Legal Defense in New York. And together, we spent the next 4 or 5 years losing in all of the Texas courts. And then we finally ended up at the United States Supreme Court. And in 2003, the Supreme Court said that they were wrong in the Bowers v. Hardwick decision. They reversed Bowers v. Hardwick and declared that gay and lesbian people have the same constitutional rights as everyone else in all respects. And that Justice Kennedy wrote an excellent decision saying that gay and lesbian people have the right to self-determination, the right to dignity, the right to liberty. And this really laid the groundwork for what was going to come later. But the significance of Lawrence versus Texas was to get rid of Bowers v. Hardwick and to get rid of the idea that gay and lesbian people don't have constitutional rights. I know that seems crazy today, but at the time, that was the belief, that gay people were not protected. And
Okay.
now we are protected.
Let's move on to this date in 2013 and the Supreme Court's decision in U.S. v. Windsor. What was that case about?
So that was the first step. After Lawrence versus Texas, once the Supreme Court said gay and lesbian people had constitutional protections, in the Windsor case, that was a federal case challenging the IRS regulations that did not recognize the marriage between Ms. Windsor and her partner. There was a lesbian couple, one of them passed away. The state of New York recognized their marriage, but the federal government did not. And so the Supreme Court issued the Windsor decision that said for federal rights, we are going to recognize the marriage, and the IRS regulations that did not permit the surviving spouse to get the benefits of the marriage were overruled, and she did not have to pay $365,000 in estate tax. And most significantly, for all of the federal laws, gay marriage was now recognized. Particularly in our practice, we do immigration. This allowed immigration, obviously, is a federal law. This allowed gay people who were married to sponsor their gay spouse and get the benefit of the spousal protections in immigration. But all the federal laws, Don't Ask, Don't Tell, DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, that was all overturned. But that didn't help states like Texas because state prohibitions still existed.
And that leads us to 2015 and the court's decision in Obergefell v. Hodges. Tell us briefly about that.
That was the final step for total equality. In the Obergefell decision, the Supreme Court, also written by Justice Kennedy and also released on this date, said we've had enough with the recognition in Lawrence versus Texas that gay and lesbian people have the same constitutional rights as everyone else, not only in the federal courts, but states have to recognize it too. And anybody who wants to get married can get married and have I think it's 1,014 marital rights recognized in the law. Marriage provides huge civil and huge protections. Our country does honor marriage. And in 2015, any adult that wanted to get married to one other adult, regardless of their gender or sexual identity, now had the right to do that. And I do want to mention just recently, if it was earlier this year or last year, there was a challenge where the clerk, I think a clerk who had refused to issue a marriage license, wanted to have this Supreme Court undo all of these laws, Obergefell and Lawrence, and we were a little nervous. We thought the Supreme Court might take the case, but they did not. They denied the writ of certiorari, and so here we are, June 26, 2026. We still have Lawrence versus Texas. We still have marriage equality in this country and all around the world. After Lawrence versus Texas, a lot of countries throughout the world decided they wanted to do it as well, and so it's now pretty well accepted. Not everywhere. There are some countries where gay people are still criminals and can be killed, but for most developed countries, they do recognize gay marriage now.
Mitchell Katine was legal counsel during the Lawrence v. Texas case, teaches at the UH Law Center, and practices law with the firm Katine, Netchman, McLaurin, LLP. Mitchell, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And just ahead, from rodeo to NHL expansion, we contemplate intrigues in the news with this week's non-expert panel on the good, the bad, and the ugly as Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and YouTube.
Support comes from Metro.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Dedicated to growing innovative businesses and inspiring families, offering a diverse workforce, modern infrastructure, and schools, parks, and more. Details at pearlandedc.com. Pearland, innovation lives here.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, Firing Line presents the 1-hour special, America at 250, Pursuing a More Perfect Union, reflecting on the principles that sustained America for 2.5 centuries. Tonight at 7 on TV8.
A lot can happen in a week, some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Joyce Sewing, news columnist at the Houston Chronicle, Charles Kuffner, the off-the-cuff political blogger, and David Branham, professor of political science at the University of Houston downtown. Joy, Charles, David, welcome to Houston Matters.
Hi, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
Panel, as we discussed on Thursday's show, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo says it is expanding, moving some of its events to a new complex that will be built off Highway 288, a few miles south of NRG Park. Houston Public Media's Michael Atkinson reports the rodeo characterizes the future space solely funded by the rodeo as complementary to its existing space at NRG. By 2029, the rodeo hopes to move horse show competitions, some livestock shows, archery, auctions, 4-H, and other programming to the new facility while continuing concerts, food, rides, and other things where they have been. This means some attendees may end up shuttling back and forth between the two main sites. The rodeo's building new facilities to expand and not to relocate. Pinky swear. Is this good, bad, or ugly, Joy?
I think it's good. Anytime you hear about the rodeo doing anything positive like this, I think it adds more dimension to what they're doing. The fact that you have to shuttle back and forth, you have to shuttle back and forth anyway, like going on the rail or parking or anything like that. So I don't see a downside, and I'm glad that they're staying within the area and not going somewhere else.
Okay, good, bad, or ugly, Charles?
Yeah, I basically agree with Joy. I don't see this as being any kind of harbinger that they are looking to move. I mean, for one thing, if they were, certainly I don't think they would move to a location like this that's going to be, I think, somewhat less accessible by car and not at all accessible by the light rail, which a lot of people use to get to the rodeo. Frankly, if they're going to move someday, it's going to be out in the burbs, and that's going to be a whole different kettle of fish. But yeah, I mean, they have an interest in doing more stuff. The space that's there is going to be somewhat constrained until we finally decide what we're going to do with the Astrodome. And this makes sense, so it's fine.
I'm sure we'll decide that any day now, right?
Any day.
Good, bad, or ugly, David?
I'm going to say good as well, but it's going to be different. It's a sign that the rodeo is getting so big that it's impossible to keep in one spot. So that means you're not going to have it like in the old days where everything was there and you can go to the concert, you can go do the rides, and then all the sightseeing and all the rodeo stuff. I mean, that was a lot of fun, and those were great memories, but it's too big now to do that. So they have to expand, and I say it's good that they're expanding. It'll be different. I think it'll be good still, but it'll be different.
Panel, we learned this week that Houston might very well see that long-desired National Hockey League expansion franchise. Or it might go to Austin instead. NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman announced Tuesday that his league has entered an agreement with the Houston-based Friedkin family, who is prepared to invest $3.5 billion to cover an expansion fee and build a new arena. The Friedkins will take the next 6 months to investigate, among other things, where that arena might be built, and it could be in either metro area. Bettman characterizes the bid as from South Texas, and according to ESPN, while the league has long believed to have been targeting Houston, including Austin offers both optionality and leverage. Houston finally has the inside track on an NHL expansion team, unless it ends up in Austin. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Charles?
Well, the choice, whoever made it to describe this as South Texas, is just wild.
Yeah, Austin is south.
Or Houston, for that matter.
Well, yeah, okay.
I mean,
southeast-ish,
more east and south, I would say.
Yeah.
So I mean, my brain keeps bumping into that like a record scratching every time I come across it. It's fine. I mean, it's interesting to me that they want a new arena built out of this one way or the other, because I think everyone assumed, especially since Tillman Fertitta was the original person named as a potential owner of an NHL franchise, that they would just use the Toyota Center, which is perfectly capable of doing this. It's a perfectly fine arena that's the right capacity and certainly could be used. I'm curious as to where in either city they think a new arena might go. My initial thought, honestly, was that we shouldn't necessarily expect this to be in the city center in either place, just because of, the land's going to be cheaper out in the burbs. That may be more so for Houston than for Austin. It's hard to say. And, there's only so far out you want to go before it doesn't feel like you're in that place anymore. I still think Houston has the inside track. I think Austin was kind of ginned up at the end there just to make it more, if you have two sites playing against each other, then you hopefully can get a better deal out of one of them. But I think it's fine. It's good.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly. David?
Ugly to the point of maddening.
Oh, wow.
That they would actually think that Austin is a better choice than Houston. I mean, can you go through? I mean, the Houston metropolitan statistical area has 3 times more people than to Austin. And any thought that it's a South Texas thing where people from Houston are actually going to drive to Austin to support the Austin hockey team? Are you kidding? It's just crazy. And then, this is $3.5 billion, which would be a top 5 value for an NHL team. I mean, there's only a few teams in that $3 billion category. And so they're going to put that team in Austin. I mean, the NHL has done this a couple times. Utah, it's a small market. Columbus, it's a growing market, but it's a small market. And they put these teams in there, and these teams thrive because of revenue sharing, because all the teams share their media with each other. So, this is a bad move on the NHL or Gary Bettman, for him to sit there and say this is a South Texas bid, and as if that Austin and Houston are the same city and they're together. They're not. People in Houston will not support a team that says Austin.
That's true.
It's not going to happen. So it's ugly.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly, Joy?
I think I kind of agree with David on this. And I'm, as a former skater, and my brother was a hockey player. We grew up in this sport. I would love to see an NHL franchise here. I don't think we've ever had one.
Absolutely.
I remember going to the Arrows games when I was a kid, and I would like to see that happen again. I would like to know if we would have the participation by people buying tickets and everything here, because I don't know how many people really know about skating and hockey in this city, but I think it would be good to have it here. Austin, I agree with you. If it's in Austin, I'm not going.
I think Austin is pretty hungry to have a major league team. They were in the bidding for WNBA franchise. They do now have an MLS team. I think Austin wants to have a team from one of the big four sports. I think they're pretty hungry for that.
Well, it's a big metropolitan area. Yeah. It's 2.5 million people, and it's got San Antonio close, but it's not Houston.
No, it's
not. I mean, it's not even close.
No.
So it's crazy to actually put them both in the same conversation.
And they're too weird anyway.
Well, they'd like to keep it that way.
Panel, Christopher Nolan's film adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey will hit theaters in 3 weeks. Ahead of it, AI audio firm 11 Labs is releasing a 13-hour audiobook version of Homer's epic poem, narrated by a replica voice of Nolan movie regular Michael Caine. The release has no affiliation with the movie, but Caine's been consulted and approved project marketing in a partnership the company says is rooted in consent and compensation. Variety reports it's not clear if Caine has heard the final project. The actor licensed his voice and likeness to the firm last year. A replicated Michael Caine's narrating an AI firm's audiobook production of The Odyssey. Is this good, bad, or ugly, David?
Yeah, this brought back memories of sophomore English, where you had your literature book that was 3 inches thick, and you had to read this. It was long. It was really, really long. But I'm going to say this is good. I mean, because Michael Caine is actually given permission here. He's not going to actually read it. It's going to be read by AI in his voice, but he's okay. So as long as they get that permission, I'm fine with it. I know it's different, and knowing that it's not actually Michael Caine, it's a replica of his voice, that kind of turns things down for me a little bit as well. But in the same manner, it's going to be a lot easier to actually produce these good movies, because you have this technology, and that means better entertainment for the consumer. So I'm good with it.
And again, this is for an audiobook, not for a movie. Just to clarify that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I imagine your argument stands.
The
regardless.
argument it does stand. Yeah, for the audiobook, that would be the same thing.
All right, good, bad, or ugly, Joy.
I'm kind of on the fence on this one. I think it's good the fact that he gave permission and he's okay with it, and if he's okay with it, then that's fine. But we're seeing now where AI is taking people's songs and using them in different ways without their permission, taking people's voices. I'm interviewing Morgan Freeman on the next week, and he has the voice of God.
He has a voice, yes.
And I'm curious whether he that would be something he would do. But I think there's so much room for misuse of this technology that I think I'm on the fence. I don't know if it's not good, bad, just kind of in between.
Okay. How about awkward?
Awkward, there we go.
It's awkward.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or ugly, or awkward if you want. Charles?
It's bad. Very simply, one of the things that makes Michael Caine special, unique in this world, and one of the things that makes all of us special and unique in this world, is that there's only so much of him. At some point, Michael Caine will die, and we will have his works and his memory. And the fact that up until now, we could not have an infinite supply of Michael Caine, new Michael Caine, to doing whatever he wanted, even though he hadn't actually done it, I think that makes it less special. I think the fact that we have to cope with the fact that we only get so much out of whoever is on this planet is a thing that if we lose it, because you can just call up an AI company and get, your grandmother reading you a bedtime story on demand, I think that diminishes what we have and what we will have. So sorry to get all philosophical here,
No,
but I think this is unequivocally bad.
It's a valid argument, and some serious food for
understand,
thought.
I want Morgan Freeman's voice to last forever.
I would like Morgan Freeman to do as much as he can with what he has for as long as he has, and then when he's gone, I want us all to be happy that we had him.
Okay, then.
This is going to give you food for thought for your interview with Morgan, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I can't wait to read that. And
that will be awesome. Yeah,
I'm excited.
And hopefully there won't be an AI version of it down the road.
I pray not. Okay.
Joy Sewing is a news columnist at the Houston Chronicle. Charles Kuffner writes the Off the Cuff political blog. David Branham is a professor of political science at the University of Houston downtown. Joy, Charles, David, thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
Support for Houston Public Media comes.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
PM, taking a deep dive into the stories that matter to Houstonians, keeping you informed, engaged, and entertained, with the generous support from our founding sponsor, Kathy Sanders.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine. Baylor's work centers on advancing health and medicine through research, education, and patient care.
A legendary vocal group reunites for a final tour, reopening old wounds and revealing how musical tastes have changed. That's the premise of the Ensemble Theatre's production called Get Ready. Director and choreographer Patro Harris knows a bit about changing music tastes. He's worked with the likes of Stevie Wonder, and his production explores how generations of artists navigate change while trying to hold on to who they are. Harris and actor Trevin Bond, who plays Roscoe Red Walker in the show, tell Houston Matters' Laura Walker why Get Ready is a great season closer ahead of Ensemble Theatre's 50th anniversary celebration.
Hey, all art starts with people. And these are a group of wonderful musicians who are coming back together once again to do a reunion tour. But they realize like they all need therapy in some kind of shape, form, or fashion. They lived their lives where emotions was indicators. They learned that it should only be used for instruction. It's about finding your way, not being lost in the world, but rising above that and finding your way. You know, it's artists, it's music, it's movement, it's dance, it's all of those things. But it's ultimately about just finding your way.
Trevin, you're an actor in the play. What was your first reaction when you read the script and learned about your character? What immediately resonated with you?
Well, first, I did unpack the character, and I said that this is a very multi-layered character, and it's going to take some work to explore and be able to bring that character's full self, Roscoe Reds Walker, to life on stage. And then I saw it juxtaposed to all the other characters in the story, which was amazing to see that not all of the characters actually could have their own play. They're so developed, each one of themselves. So to be able to unpack myself's character and everybody else's and to play with these amazing actors is amazing. So.
Patro, the play examines a moment when Black music was evolving from doo-wop into what would become mainstream R&B and pop. Houston has experienced similar musical shifts from blues and gospel to Zydeco, rap, chopped and screwed hip-hop, and beyond. Did those parallels influence the way you approach the production?
Absolutely. You know, music history, before we start with the project, we go back and do history. We go back and see, like, you know, the Ink Spots, the Temptations, the New Edition, all the way through those histories, so we can be influenced by the authentic people that we add into this world of our play.
Trevin, every generation seems to believe the music they grew up with is the real music. How does this story explore that tension between honoring tradition and embracing change?
So we have an amazing character in the play, JR, who serves as the bridge between the generations. One thing I know just as a music educator and an enthusiast of music is that it all reiterates itself in some way, shape, or form. So you still find notes of jazz music in modern day hip hop. You still find traces of classical music, Euro classic or even African classical music inside of the music that is produced nowadays. So it all still lives. It's just how it's interpreted and displayed when it's put together.
Patro, you've worked with legends like Stevie Wonder and spent your career around artists who helped shape American music. When you look at Get Ready, do you see echoes of real musicians you've encountered who struggled to adapt as taste changed?
1,000%. I do a lot of different artists, and I know the right formulas to get them to do things. Even in this production of Get Ready, we added when the young character, JR, is played by Fortune, who comes up, and we add a flavor himself into the music. So we get a mixture of those, and so we get a chance to see how valuable the next generation is. So absolutely, it's an influence of that. And you have to realize, like, what you do is good, but you're speaking to a now generation. So most people, it's difficult to take that leap, but we do it because the music is the language, not so much the culture.
Trevin, was there a particular artist, era, or musical influence that helped you find your way into this character?
Yes, Sammy Davis Jr. Is a huge inspiration for me. And even though he was a part of the Rat Pack, where he wasn't necessarily looking like everybody else as a part of that Rat Pack, and ending up being his solo self, to see him navigate the business and also strike out on his own and also tether himself back to that group so that way he could push himself forward in his own celebrity and his own walk in his artistic journey.
One of the most interesting things about Houston's music scene is that artists who succeeded often reinvent themselves while staying true to who they are. For both of you, what does this play suggest about the price of reinvention? Can artists evolve without losing themselves?
I don't believe anything in life is free, so there's always going to be some cost, and it's what you're willing to pay. And the show has lots of revelations about that, as to how far can I take this journey with the sacrifices that I'm willing to make, and when does it stop? When is my edge?
Patrick?
Yeah, I think Roscoe, his character that he plays, he has a line that says, I had to go away to know that I needed to stay. So I think artists, we have to find out what works for ourselves. And we have an environment, sometimes not a safe environment, not an environment that accepts us back, but we have to find our way. So absolutely, it's important to reinvent yourself in that way, or not necessarily reinvent, just use a different part of you. He had to learn in the play that he has to share more, he has to be more complimentary, he has to be not just see one thing. So I think it's very important for you to be able to look at and be able to rally around the culture and be able to use all of your assets to get where you need to go.
Houston audiences are incredibly knowledgeable about music. If the members of the Doves were from Houston instead of the world of the play, what local artists or groups do you think they'd admire or maybe even compete with?
Local artists, because we have so many flavors. We got old school, we got new school. We got all this thing. We have a wonderful female in the artist, Leah Rochelle, who plays Eva D. Who plays a blues singer. So it's right up the alley here. You have Zydeco, you have all those kind of things like that. But you hear like a Betty Wright, those kind of things coming out, or the Temptations in our world. Like I said, our Young Person, New Edition. You hear a variety of things coming from artists like Major. From here in Houston, you begin to get some of his flavor. You got some soulful sounds that Mr. Bond does.
Okay. And Trevin, are there any that you can think of, either here locally or major?
I think it's such a fusion. So even in this play, incorporating the Doves, but even with the talent that is on stage, everybody has a whole different set of sound. Everybody is so dynamic in their own gifts and in their own ways. So I can see that being tethered to universally to any artists that are out here, past and former.
You build a career in that where you've been praised by everyone from critics to audiences and have worked everywhere from Broadway to regional theaters across the country. After all these years, what still excites you about telling stories through music and movement?
People. I think people are the excitement. When you can go to a theater, and sometimes we need to release them. Sometimes it's to inform us. Sometimes it's to educate us. Sometimes it's just to relax and just to have something different in my world. So that's excitement. I love traveling different places around the country and coming to the Ensemble Theatre here and meeting this new crop of people that I haven't seen in a while. So it's like coming back home to family. And then the artists tell me what the play is. The words are on the pages, the songs there, but these artists make these things come alive. And it's such a beautiful experience to have wonderful talent, wonderful music, and just a wonderful story. So I'm very excited to come back here. This is what keeps it fresh for me, the people.
Trevin, audiences often focus on the singing in a production like this. What's the biggest challenge in making sure your character feels fully realized, like a fully realized person rather than just a performer?
Let me make sure I get this one really clear. Say this one good, man.
It's the work. It comes down to the work. And are you willing to put in the hours to really unearth and unpack what you need to produce and what you need to put out for your audience and to do the play justice and that show?
Trevin, many people have memories tied to a particular song or an artist or an era of music. Did working on this show make you reflect on your own musical influences or family traditions in a new way?
It actually did. In one key moment, I called my mom actually 2 weeks ago. And I said, this is really sort of trippy for me because it's a full circle moment. So I auditioned for Showtime at the Apollo when I was 17 years old with the song Everything Must Change. I did not get called back to do anything. And now I've been blessed to be in this production where that is one of the songs that I am rendering every single show for a month straight. So that song has always been with me. And then here it is again in this show where I actually get a chance to put it on stage and do it.
That's an awesome full circle moment. For both of you, we're living in a time when people can access virtually every genre of music in every decade instantly. What do you think this story says about the importance of preserving musical traditions, even as tastes and technology change?
History is always important, to know. I mean, some places trying to say that history doesn't matter, but we absolutely matter. Like I said earlier, when we started working on the production, we started with history. Our dramaturg, Joanne Davis-Jones, came out and she just really gives a lot of information about all the language that we were saying, the old school language, the new school language. So it's very important right now. What do you say, Trevin?
I say live music is so important. I love studio work. I love artists that are doing, really funky, innovative things digitally. But there's nothing that beats live music. And we get a chance to have an awesome band. Also musical director, Philip Hall.
Philip Hall, y'all.
Who is making this thing really come to life on stage. And that's what I grew up on, live music, vinyls, and hearing all the instrumentation and all the nuance in that, and not just perfect sounding tracks that are put together in the studio, but where you hear all the tension of people playing together and doing music together.
Patro, Get Ready helps close out the Ensemble Theater's season as the organization prepares to celebrate 50 years. Why does this story feel like the right way and the right fit for this moment in the theater's history? Well, we got a double entendre. First, the title. Get ready. So get ready for the show, but get ready for the future. Get ready for the next season. Get ready for those things. Then it's a story where people struggle and take bumps in the road, but they find their way and they stick together as a family, which is so much that the ensemble is about. It's about family. The E stands for everyone, and everyone counts. So this show kind of exemplifies that in a major way. When audiences walk out of that theater, the curtains come down, what do you want them to leave remembering?
So it was different before we actually did this first weekend of previews for me, actually. So I wanted them to walk away saying, wow, these people are really delivering on stage, and they are great actors and great singers, and they're telling this amazing story. What we've received as feedback is that, wow, this brought me back. It made me feel so warm and safe and felt like, wow, music is still alive, and these characters, I recognize their stories. These stories show up in my family, and I know these people that are on this stage and these characters. So I hope that continues.
And you, Patra?
Yes, the last song that we sing is All Right, and I think that's where we want to know that it's going to be all right. If we stick together, if we do what we need to do, what we can do, and wherever you are, it's going to be all right.
Director and choreographer Patro Harris and actor Trevin Bond from Ensemble Theatre's production of Get Ready. It opens tonight and runs through July 26th. They spoke with Houston Matters' Laura Walker. And that'll do it for today's show. The Houston Matters team includes Michael Haggerty, Joshua Zinn, Brenda Valdivia, Mincho Jacob, and Laura Walker. Jared Carroll's our technical director. On Monday's show, more about NHL expansion in Houston or Austin or not. We'll talk with Houston Chronicle reporter Michael Shapiro about just what we do and don't know following NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman's news this week that Houston's Friedkin family will take 6 months to consider placing an arena and team in either metro area. I'm Craig Cohen. Have a great weekend. Then join us Monday for those and other Houston Matters.